Yo, what's good, everybody? Today I'm talking about a sleeper fight of the year from a couple weeks ago, and it is no other than the rematch between Philippines' Pedro Taduran versus Japan's Ginjiro Shigeoka. So I've been trying to keep up with boxing and watch more of the fights in the lower weight classes, and I'm gonna tell you right now, these little guys can fight. The skills and speed demonstrated in some of these fights down there is incredible. And this fight right here is a perfect example of that, because these two gentlemen went to war, but they both kept their fundamentals and technique intact, while they pummeled each other for 12 straight rounds. The way I saw it, it was that Taduran was clearly the aggressor for the entirety of the fight. He was looking for a back and forth affair, an action-packed, explosive, toe-to-toe type of fight. And so he always tried to press the issue. Shigeoka, on the other hand, fought an incredibly disciplined fight as he tried his hardest to stay on his toes and box circles around Taduran. Despite being the shorter and smaller man, he thought it best to avoid the firefight and instead capitalize on Taduran's aggressive behavior and punish his mistakes as he tries to close the gap. As I described the contrasting styles right there, it sounds like a regular, matchup, the swarmer or brawler versus the outboxer. And, it was to a degree, but it had different elements to it that made it unique. Like the fact that the much smaller man is actually the one who's trying to keep distance rather than it being the other way around. And this fight in particular was so entertaining because despite the fact that Shigeoka wanted to be on the outside and that Taduran was applying insane pressure, Shigeoka did not run. No running at all in this fight. Shigeoka knew his range, he knew where he wanted to operate, and he maintained it. He was always within striking distance and he didn't move an excessive amount. And he wasn't afraid of engagement at all. It was simply his game plan to box, pick his shots and counter. He didn't fight like that because of fear. It was strategy. And, he executed the game plan well. He stuck to it and he found a lot of success, mainly in the middle rounds. I was convinced rounds 5, 6, and 7 were all his rounds. I thought after a very rough round 4, where Taduran was looking like he had all the momentum and was honestly beating on Shigeoka, I thought it was looking a little bleak for Shigeoka. I thought soon he would get stopped, but he persevered and somehow, some way, he managed to stop the avalanche that was Taduran in round 5. It looked as though he finally found Taduran's timing and he shot well-placed counters to stop his advance. His jab connected numerous times as well, and this continued all the way to round 7. He looked like he started to figure out Taduran. He figured out how to negate the overwhelming pressure. Shigeoka looked faster and his feet were so much faster. So Taduran just really couldn't keep up and he couldn't close the gap. Shigeoka managed to turn it all around. And now, at this point in time in the fight, he was the one that held the momentum. But unfortunately for him, the rightful victor in Taduran was just too much for him. As I said before, Taduran just looked a much bigger and powerful fighter, and the firepower was just too much to overcome. Early in the fight, Taduran was looking scary. The first round was a little cagey, and the second was too tight to call, but the third and the fourth round, specifically, were great rounds for Taduran. He was destructive, and he was looking unstoppable, honestly. The pressure he was applying on Shigeoka was suffocating, and he looked like a hurricane. You know what I'm saying? I know it's such an easy comparison to make, seeing as they're both Filipino, but in round 4, he literally looked like prime Manny Pacquiao. The unrelenting pressure, the speed, the power, and I'm talking power, man. Literally every shot he connected with was thudding. And the sheer volume, my goodness. And the fact that he's a southpaw, Taduran, he is a beast, and he would not leave Shigeoka alone in that round. He didn't give any space to breathe. He was cutting the ring off real well. And this point of the fight, because Taduran was just too much to handle, Shigeoka was actually fighting pretty negative. He was a lot more mobile, and he would only stop and shoot when he saw an opening. So Taduran adjusted, and he started punching with Shigeoka, because that's the only time when Shigeoka was actually able to take the full impact. And he was successful in this. You know, he was beating on Shigeoka, and several times did I think that Shigeoka was in real danger and he is so close to getting stopped. That's what I thought. That's why, to me, it's very impressive to see Shigeoka bounce back in rounds 5, 6, and 7. But you know, it's tough to keep someone like Taduran off you for most of the fight. Soon after, Shigeoka started to slow just enough for Taduran to close in on him again, and quite frankly, just overpower him. Shigeoka was always in the fight. He was banging away with Taduran. He picks the shots. He placed them well. And some could even argue he landed the cleaner shots. But Taduran's firepower was just on another level. And with him being the larger man, Taduran was able to absorb Shigeoka's punches real well and just really tank through them. At this point too, Shigeoka must have been hella exhausted. So the power in his shots probably wasn't the same. And that made it so that Taduran was just able to walk him down even more and turn the fight a lot more violent. And that type of fight was always going to favor the larger, stronger Taduran. But make no mistake, I don't know how many times I gotta say it, Shigeoka didn't cower away, nor did he holster his guns. No. Even though he didn't get knocked out, he metaphorically went out on his shield. You know, he fought to win, not to survive. You know, Shigeoka is a true warrior. But unfortunately for him, on that night, Taduran was just a better man. And he ended up winning the fight. And you know what? He deserved it. You know, there were moments where he looked sensational. I'm talking about Taduran. Where he looked unstoppable. And truthfully, even unbeatable. I'm not going to pretend like I've been following him his whole career. But if you don't know who Pedro Taduran is, I suggest you go watch him right now. And better yet, watch this fight right here. You'll see that he is one entertaining fighter. So shout out to Philippines, Pedro Taduran, and congratulations on your victory, sir. You have a new fan in me. Ginjiro Shigeoka, right? He deserves all the flowers in the world. He showed grit, he showed a lion's heart, and a granite chin. Shigeoka's training camp must have been very rigorous, because to be able to fight all 12 rounds in that energy sapping style must mean that he really put in the work in the gym, man. He must have really wanted this victory. He also showed a lot of courage to not cower, to fire back when Taduran was clearly the heavier hitter and the bigger fighter, and he got stopped in the first fight. So for him to really just not shrink against Taduran is incredibly impressive to me, because you know, there's no going around it. We have fighters who have taken a beating, and the next fight after that, they would look as though that their fighting spirit has changed, you know. So that's why that is very impressive to me. And the poise that he showed against a violent man in Taduran, and the composure and discipline to stick to the game plan, just pure incredible stuff in my opinion. Now obviously there's that harrowing moment at the end of the fight where Shigeoka collapsed, and of course he was hospitalized and he was actually on the verge of death. And it's sad, you know. It really is just sad and frightening to see someone like that at the end of a fight. It shows that this beautiful sport isn't always beautiful, right? Thankfully, recent reports say that his condition is improving. He's only 25, you know, he's so young. 25 years old, I mean, come on. I truly hope his health recovers and is able to live the rest of his life. But that's all I really got to say. If you haven't seen this fight, I highly encourage you to go watch it. You will be entertained. But if you did watch it, what did you think of the fight? It was a competitive fight, so I ask, is there anybody out there that actually thinks that Shigeoka won? And do you think Taduran has a shot at beating Oscar Collazo? Leave it all down in the comments below. I really want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you have a lovely day.